You want to buy a $184,000 home. You plan to pay 10% as a down payment and take out a 30-year loan at 3.9% interest for the rest. Question A, how much is the loan amount going to be? Question B, what will your monthly payments be? Question C, how much total interest do you pay? Question D, suppose you want to pay off the loan in 15 years rather than 30 years. What will your monthly payment be? And question E, how much in interest will you save if you finance for 15 years instead of 30 years? All right, it seems like a long and complicated problem, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So where do we begin? The first thing is to recognize that we have a 10% down payment involved in this problem. So if we have a 10% down payment, that's going to help us determine how much we're going to take out for our loan. If we're trying to buy a $184,000 home and we're putting down a 10% down payment, that means that we're going to be putting down $184,000 times 0.10, 10%. In other words, the amount of down payment we put down, getting a scientific calculator and multiplying these two numbers, gives us the following: $18,400. Notice a quick way to get there is that because we're multiplying by 0.1, we're actually just moving our decimal place one place over. But that being said, take 0.10 times 184,000, and that tells us what our down payment is. To get our loan amount, we simply take 184,000 then, and subtract from it our down payment, 18,400. That gives us $165,600. That's the amount that we will be taking out for our loan, $165,600. I will make a little side comment here. If you put 10% down, what that means is you're actually taking a 90% loan out of your home amount. Let me explain. In other words, putting 10% down is the same thing as paying 90%. So, if we were to take $184,000 and take 90% of that amount, that too would be a shortcut way to get the $165,600 amount loan. But either the first way or the second way will get us there. Now, what will our monthly payments be? Well, now that we have our loan amount, we can use our loan formula to get our monthly payments. Specifically, if we look on our formula sheet, we'll see that under the loan section, in order to calculate monthly payments, we can use the formula that says D equals P sub 0 times R over K divided by the quantity of 1 minus 1 plus R over K raised to the minus NK. This formula will give us our monthly payments. We just have to put in all the correct variables in the correct locations. So let's fill this formula in and then we'll calculate it out. P sub 0 is the amount of our loan, which is $165,600. R is our interest rate, which is 3.9% or 0.039. K is the number of times per year we're paying this amount, and we are looking for monthly payments, and so K is 12. Divide that by 1 minus the quantity 1 plus, again, R, 0.039 over K, 12, raised to the negative, now I need NK. N is my number of years, and my number of years is 30. K is 12, so up here in the exponent, I'm going to take 30 times 12, or 30 times 12 is actually 360. So I can also substitute and put just negative 360 right here. That's the thing I'm going to put into my scientific calculator, whether it be Desmos or a regular scientific calculator of your choice. But I'm going to write down that I like to use Desmos, so I'm going to evaluate this at www.desmos.com and see what I come up with. I get that our monthly payments are $165,600 times 0.039 over 12 divided by 1 minus the quantity 1 plus 0.39 divided by 12 raised to the negative 360. And I calculate using Desmos that's equal to 781 and 8 cents. So our monthly payments are going to be $781.08. Now we move on to Part C. Part C says how much total interest do you pay? Well, how do we get the total interest? Well, the interest is the total amount of money that we pay minus the original amount of the loan. So we're going to need a little scratch work. So I'm going to erase and give myself some space. And then I'm going to go ahead and say that the total interest is obtained by taking our total amount of payments. So how do I get the total amount of payments? Well, that comes from taking the monthly payment, which is $781.08. I'm going to multiply that times 12 because I'm going to pay that 12 times a year. And then I'm going to multiply that by 30. If I take 30 times 12 times $781.08, that tells the total amount of payments that are made. That amount, when calculated with a calculator, becomes $281,188.80. That's how much money is being paid. The original loan amount was $165,600. So if we now take those total payments, $281,188.80, and we subtract the loan amount of $165,600, that's going to tell me the amount of interest that was paid to the loan company or the bank. Subtracting down gives us $115,588.80. That's our amount of interest. $115,588.80. And that completes part C. 2 more to go. Suppose you want to pay off the loan in 15 years rather than 30. All right. So, what will our monthly payment be? Well, for Part B, we were figuring out the monthly payments based on a 30-year loan. In Part D, we're going to do the exact same thing, except this time we're going to use a 15-year loan. So we're going to have the same formula as before, the same interest rate, the same K value, the same loan amount. The only thing that changes is that instead of 30 years, we have 15 years. That means our N value is changing, and consequently, the exponent NK is the other thing that changes. So if N is 15, NK is 15 times 12, and that is 180. That means that instead of putting 360 as the exponent in our formula, we're going to substitute in negative 180. Let's do that on our calculator and figure out what our new loan amount is going to be. Remember, this is our formula D that gives us the monthly payments. It's the loan amount with the interest and then the number of times we're compounding per year. So let's stick that in our calculator and come up with an amount. Using Desmos, I calculate that our monthly loan payments will be $1,216.64. This obtained through Desmos. So $1,216.64. Last question. How much money in interest will you save if you finance for 15 years instead of 30 years? Well, let's recall. How do we get our interest? We take our total payments and we subtract from it our loan amount. So I've cleared this space up here to do exactly that. I need to again, as I did before in Part C, figure out my total payments. But this time I need my total payments for the $1,216.64 amount that I pay each month for 15 years. So I'm going to take $1,216.64. I'm going to multiply that times 12. That tells me how much I'm paying per year. And then I'm going to take it and multiply by 15 because I'm making those payments over the course of 15 years. So taking $1,216.64 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 15, we get the following. $218,995.20. $218,995.20. That's our total payments. Now, to get our interest, one more step. We have to figure out how much is left over if we subtract off our initial loan amount. So if we take $218,995.20 and subtract $165,600, and let me just erase this so it doesn't get too confusing here. That gives us the amount of interest that was paid. That amount would be $53,395.20. There's one more step, and that is I now have to subtract and find the amount of interest that I would save. In other words, what's the difference between this amount and the amount we paid at 30 years? Well, our last step then is going to be subtracting these two amounts. So let me clear a little more space to do exactly that. Erasing, we take the amount of interest we paid on our 30-year loan, which would be $115,588.80, and we subtract from it the amount of interest that we would pay on our 15-year loan, which is $53,395.20. When we make that subtraction, we get the total of $62,193.60. That amount is the difference in interest between those two. That amount goes in our last box E. $62,193.60. That's the amount of interest we would save if we financed for 15 years instead of 30. Well, that problem was a little longer than I anticipated it to be, but I hope that all the steps were clear and you were able to follow along. If you do have any questions at all, don't hesitate to email me. Good luck.